Hi, it's Leslie. Welcome to my channel where I paint things and sometimes yell advice in your general direction. Um, the art you'll see on screen is the process of making one of my Patreon monthly coloring pages. I went a little bit overboard and colored it myself, but hey, no judgments. A big thank you to my patrons who voted for today's topic of today's video. Words are hard. I've compiled a list of 10 random tips for digital painting. These things are what I've heard, picked up, or figured out along the way. Think of them as kind of a pirate code, guidelines, but certainly not rules. Okay, we'll hop right into it. Number one, the easiest thing that I found when looking at references and just drawing in general, break things into basic shapes and add the details later. You might need to squint for this to kind of like chase away the details, but it's good to find like the squares, the triangles, the circles. Just really stare at it and see how the shadows can be broken into solid shapes, not just super blurry darkness. And on that note, number two, stop over blending. Put that fucking blur tool away. Alright? It's okay to use sometimes, but don't use it on everything. You're not painting clouds or cotton balls or pillows. Sometimes things have rough, angular shadows, including humans. Look at those around you. Look at yourself in the mirror. Sometimes things are soft. They have nice, soft, round shadows. Other things have hard cut shadows that just barely need any blending at all. That's what makes an image believable. If you render and blur everything into oblivion, it makes the piece harsh as it is. It's boring to look at. So give it texture, break up the monotony. Please don't overblend. I'll be touching on this in my hand tutorial video that's coming up. I don't fucking know when. Sometime in the future. This year. Number three, start with small thumbnails or just have the canvas zoomed out really far, or start with a teeny tiny sketch up in the corner. After you've figured out the basic composition, then you can blow it up or start zooming in, adding details. When you get the gestures down, it's much easier when it's small and zoomed out. You aren't concentrating on the details. You can kind of like guesstimate the gestures and things seem a lot less stiff. It's, I guess, along the same lines as squinting to find the rough shapes. It takes away those pesky details that tend to get in the way of things. Too many details too early can throw off perspective. And, we don't want that. We don't want to get hyper-focused and kind of lose our way. In the same boat of details, use larger brushes. Refrain from using tiny brushes from the start. Shrink the brushes as you zoom in. Smaller brushes equal detail. And remember what I just said. Don't want to start with detail. When baking a cake, you don't cook the eggs before mixing them in the batter. Nope. That wouldn't make no fucking sense. Art is the same. Another thing that I've noticed with digital art, number 5, I tell you last one was number 4, this one's number 5. Some changes should be felt rather than seen. Like this can apply to color washes or overlays. It's based on your preferences and tastes and how you see things. There's really no right or wrong way to do this. Sometimes just feeling a change rather than seeing it can really just change the entire mood of the painting or make it just right. Or like even like a soft cast of lime green, just the tiniest bits, like, oh shit, that's kind of spooky. Stuff like that. Number 6, I have problems with this one. Don't be afraid to paint over a mistake. Color over that and start from step 1 if you feel the need. Sometimes the second attempt at something is better than the first. Most artists tend to make several sketches for the same pose just for this very reason. It does come in handy. It's a pain in the ass, I'll be honest. But like, it does help because it you kind of already have that information in your brain, and when you start over it a second time, it flows out more smoothly and more calmly and better. Like, the first time you ride a bike, it sucks ass, but after that, the more you practice, the easier it gets, Number 7, holy shit. Flip your fucking canvas. Look what I'm doing. I'm flipping the canvas. You gotta make sure things look right from all different angles. It does help. If you need to, you can flip it upside down too. That can help you see anything that's off, and you can know where to fix it. Number 8, study the basics. Don't copy another artist's work. What they see through their eyes is skewed reality, and you don't want to copy that because then you're copying their mistakes. Learn to draw believable and fluid poses by studying references, life photos, going outside and fucking drawing a squirrel. You know, guides are cool and shit, like mapping things out with a skeleton with lines and circles, but don't rely on that solely. If you look at the human body, there's not a single straight line on it. Sure, things look kind of straight, but they have a little bit of a curve to them. There's no like perfectly ruler fucking straight line on the body. So if you use a lot of straight lines, don't get me wrong, you can use them sparingly if that is your style, but don't do a lot of them because it'll look hella fucking stiff. Once you have the basics down, then you can start worrying about style and what makes your art unique. You don't want to get locked into a style that screams, I have no fucking idea what a human body is. So do your research, do your homework. I know it sucks, but it's totally worth it in the end because it pays off. Number 9. This is the hardest one, the one that I have problems with. Do not overthink things. Save the overthinking for studies. When painting just to paint, try to keep your brain clear. Take what knowledge you have learned from studies and let it flow out of you. There is a strange balance between not thinking too much and being conscious of what you're doing. It takes a while to get there. As I mentioned, I do have problems with it sometimes. I put on a podcast or listen to some horror shows while I paint to distract myself, and that sometimes helps. And then I find myself thinking too hard and I have to go back and rewind the podcast because I missed something. But number 10, if a piece is giving you trouble, step away from it. It's best to just step away for a few hours and return to it with fresh eyes than getting frustrated. Like, I know the urge to finish it is great. Like, you gotta get it laid down, you gotta finish it, otherwise you're gonna forget the details that are in your head, or it's gonna end up shitty if you end up not getting it all down. But hear me out. In the meantime, it's best to exercise, do chores, talk to friends, draw something else, do a study. Come back to that troublesome piece and look at it calmly. Remember to flip the canvas. Flipping it upside down, flipping it the other horizontal, vertically, what the flip ever. All right. Drawing and painting when emotional it makes good art, but you don't want to attach a negative feeling to the art that you're creating, because every single time you go to create art, especially in that style, that particular thing that you were trying to paint, there's going to be a negative connotation attached to it, and you do not want that for your art. It just attaches this, I'm going to sound like a hippie, but like, I truly believe this is true. It'll just attach like this heavy negativity to this beautiful thing that you're trying to create, and you don't want that in your piece. Trust me. Unless you are painting an angry scribble, then by all means, go ahead, like that one guy at another stroke of agony. But that's pretty much it for today. Next video will be about autism awareness. I'm going to talk a little bit about some things in my life, my family, and then after that I'll be doing a video on backgrounds, how to do backgrounds, and then hands maybe eventually. I don't fucking know. We'll see. It all depends on what the patrons vote. Go sign up for Patreon. You can have a say in what videos I make. Feel free to share any tips that you have down below, or tweet them out, fucking tag me and shit. I don't know, whatever you want to do. I hope that you like this video and some of these tips stick. I really hope some of them work for you, and if they don't, that's cool too. Play around with things, find stuff that works exactly for you. You don't need to do exactly what everybody else is doing or what they say. These are just rough guidelines and suggestions. And that's the end of today's video. Thank you for joining me today. Subscribe, like, all that stuff if you want. If not, that's cool too. It's completely optional. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.